Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
My name is Spangler, and I'm a sculptor. What I do is carve wood, essentially. I went to MCAD in Minneapolis for art school. How I got into carving, there was a sculpture that was a kind of a building, and I wanted these murals on the inside of it, and murals of kind of war scenes, and a picture of kind of a World War II style bedlam, which I've always been interested in as a kid. And so it's, in a way, it's a child's play version of war. And I didn't have any idea how to carve. I had basically one carpenter's chisel, which was not very sharp, and it was carving in whatever wood I had. And it just evolved into what I do now. In the work I still do today, objects are very important. I'll find an object that is a kind of indirect metaphor or something that's emblematic of what I'm trying to portray, and I'll carve that realistically into the sculptures. And so those objects still function, I think, in the way I was dealing with found objects, which was their juxtapositions next to each other, and the meanings that are created by putting two objects together is the same thing that I'm doing right now, except that I'm just carving them. Bas relief basically means low relief. Low relief can be, as deep as a foot. I mean, it can be fairly deep, but it's not in the round. It's a pictorial plane. And so I was really drawn to that, where I could still play with pictorial space and landscape and illusion. It's a very old way to work, but it's not really often done today in contemporary art. Egyptians would sometimes use bas relief on the sarcophagi. Lorenzo Gioberti did some famous bas reliefs, which I probably are more, my work is more pictorial, like that work, and that would be the Gates of Paradise. Looking back through history, that's the closest thing, but that, obviously is about very particular stories and a very particular narrative. My work has a loose narrative. It's not specifically telling us, it's not about a specific story, it's more evocative of cultural things that I'm interested in. I don't really look to history that much. I'm interested in rural life. I'm interested in extreme attitudes in rural life. I'm interested in militants and people that are on the fringe and under the radar. Like this sculpture I'm working on right now started out as I wanted to make this kind of epic piece about the rural 70s movement with the hippies moving out to the land, and for all the different reasons. I mean, there's vets, there's rich college kids, there's religious people at the time, and there's this huge land movement, which a lot of people left, and there's a lot of failures, but there's a lot of that still has such a huge impact on our culture today. So that's what catches my interest, is that line between illusion and real sculptural space, and that I can build a whole world because I can use illusion. Whereas if I was making sculptures of the actual objects, I lose the landscape, I lose the ground, the figure-ground relationship. I don't have a plan when I start. I have a loose idea, but compositionally, it's pretty flexible as I evolve through the carving. They say, Jimi Hendrix playing a guitar solo, there's no mistakes because you just react to it, right? You just react to what you've done, and so sometimes I'll break things off to carve behind things, or sometimes things will break and I lose it in the pile of wood, and then it's just not there. So then it's something else. So it's now if I had a very particular plan that I had to follow, I'd be constantly frustrating myself with that. But since I don't, that's not an issue at all. I don't have a favorite piece of art. It's just whatever I'm working on at the time. When I'm done with them, I'm done. I can look back in the past and say, be more objective and say, oh, that piece was better than this piece, and this piece works better than that piece. But I'm not really attached so much, as long as they have good homes and they're hopefully being seen, and hopefully people aren't just storing them in storage spaces, but they might be, but that. As long as they're being taken care of and someday people will get to see them, that's, I'm happy about that. This is just black gesso, watered down a little bit. I've got a mixture of graphite and acrylic. That handle will shine up a little bit. That's all kind of wet back in there yet. After I've done that and I get a feel for it, then I can go back in there and articulate with the chisels, just to tweak the boards and get it to have the texture that I want. This is some of my previous work. When a spruce tree or a balsam, tamarack, when they fall over, especially in the swamp, they bring up the whole root structure, and this big root clump comes up and it leaves a hole in the. This guy leaned some boards against that, over the hole, and then he built his little home there. And this is a sniper, and he's got his big sniper rifle, and he has a ironing board where he's got his shirt all ironed up, and he's got his refrigerator full of beer, and some kind of pet that he has in a cage here, an old keg barrel that he made into a cage. And then there's the old town hall building behind it that's maybe he's using just to store some wood in. Along here, when he comes down, there's a bridge with the tennis rackets, and that's the bridge over to the country club. And so he's living across the river from the country club. We're not sure, if he's on the good side or the bad side, but maybe he's on his own side. And this piece called Useless Knowledge is about taking the books and burning the books. And so here's an old army truck loaded with books that presumably going to be burned, or and then they've got this raft that they've built out of barrels, and it's up on these stilts. And there's an old teepee and kind of a Wanigan type thing where they're waiting for a flood. They've been out here just getting excited about when the society's going to crash and when it's going to give their life some purpose, because it's life is more exciting when you feel like things are that extreme and really are going to end. Well, they've been sitting out here so long that under these stilts, they built a bar. If you look underneath, there's a full bar with stools where they can drink and carry on and have fun. Off in the distance is a kind of a suburban housing development that's kind of encroaching on them. So they've been out here for a long time, waiting for. Well, I guess the economy did crash, so maybe they're happy now, but the flood never came. In the end, what I hope I end up with, is an object, a sculpture, that is the only way it can be. It's the only way that this can manifest, is like in this thing, and that it's like, well, it wouldn't be better as a this, or it wouldn't be better as a that, or it wouldn't be better as an essay, or maybe it would have been a better movie. Like, I want the sculpture to have that kind of totality and integrity of meaning, and to be a complete, self-contained object.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.